Gardner Minshew's going to at least bring something where I think it's going to be fun for a little while. Eventually, the Minshew mistakes are going to happen. There's Minshew mania, Minshew mistakes. But I got to be honest with you. I think there's a chance that he can at least have some chemistry with Davante Adams and give them a chance to move the offense at least early in the season.
From what I understand, when I saw this QB of the day, I thought to myself, wow, is this risky? Are there props available? And it looks like there are not, which makes a lot of sense now to me.
Yes.
Because from what I gather, so I was in Vegas for Summer League, as you guys know, and I met with somebody who is on Raider Nation Radio, which is literally the entire station is just on the Raiders. And one of the guys that I've known since I was covering the first year of the LA Rams, and he was covering first year of the LA Rams, and he now is one of the morning show hosts there. And we spent probably 30, 40 minutes talking about the future this year of the Raiders. And like this team's very high on, for whatever reason, Aiden O'Connell. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gardner Minshew doesn't play a game unless Aiden O'Connell was to get injured, which means, and I don't know if you guys remember what we saw from Aiden O'Connell, but it wasn't electric in a good way. So in terms of side stats, Davante Adams under 1,500 yards is a bet I actually might place. And you guys know how I feel about futures bets. In terms of Davante Adams touchdowns, I feel like he can still get to that number, even though it's juice minus 120. Brock Bowers, though, oh no, sir. Minus 155 to the under on his receiving touchdowns. I don't know if he'll even be used. I don't know if they'll have enough red zone opportunities for him to get 4.5, 5 touchdowns. No shot. In terms of comeback player of the year, offensive player of the year, season MVP, absolutely no. Definitely not. Do not place it. Do not even think about it. Do not ask go. No. Love Max Crosby over 12.5 sacks because that's kind of the only thing that I can bet on, really, like not like in terms of putting your money on something, but we know what Max Crosby is, and I like him to win defensive player of the year too. But to make the playoffs, doggy, no shot. This offensive line looks even close to capable. But I do like Zamir White. Like we were joking about that being a part of Mario's thoughts. And the reason that I was looking at him is he's one of Peter Schrager's top 5 sleeper guys to look at. And he's explosive and fun. And I think he can make something out of nothing. But in terms of the quarterback of the day and Gardner Minshew, I don't even know. And this is no disrespect to Mario. And this is not something that really even anyone who's not close to the situation would know. I don't even know if we're going to see Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, Aiden O'Connell is obviously, teams would always rather go with the young quarterback that they think has upside. So there's certainly a chance that he's out there. I guess it depends on how the rest of camp looks. But I will say this, Aiden O'Connell has some moments, and then there are times where you watch that offense and you just say, this is it's just not going to work, right? Like Gardner Minshew at least has enough where he can make some of those big plays. He can consistently move the offense. It's the turnovers and some of those mistakes. It's the boom or bust, right? High ceiling, low floor. There can be a low floor sometimes with him, and I think that's one of the problems. I will throw one more out there for you, though. Brock Bowers over 4.5 receiving touchdowns. They've been using Brock Bowers so far in camp and in a little bit in the preseason as everything. Slot receiver, out of the backfield, kind of the H-back situation, outside as a receiver, inside as a tight end. They're going to use Brock Bowers in a lot of ways. And I think there's an opportunity there because we talked about heading into the draft, right? It was like, he's a tight end, but he's really a pass catcher. Like you look at him as more than just a traditional tight end where some people were throwing around, and it's dangerous to do this. Some people were throwing around the notion that Brock Bowers could end up being the greatest tight end of all time. I have no idea whether that's going to be the case. That's going to be tough considering Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski and go down the list of great tight ends that we've seen in the NFL. But I will say this, Brock Bowers has all of the intangibles and the skill set, and it looks like the type of usage that we're going to get to have even a really, really big rookie year, just lining up all over the place, utilizing mismatches depending on what type of defense you're seeing on the other side of the field, using his size to go up against some smaller corners, maybe using his speed then to mismatch against some slower linebackers. All of those things can be an advantage for Brock Bowers. So I would maybe consider that for over 4.5 touchdowns just because you can use them in so many different ways.
What I will say about that is this. Remember Michael Mayer and how talented he is. I mean, it's not a
Mm-hmm.
was, he still is, and how we thought he was going to be used in the Raiders system. Some people thought Michael Mayer was the most talented tight end in that class, and he
Yeah.
was just not really utilized, and you couldn't rely on him in any way. And I think Brock Bowers is more talented than Michael Mayer. I think he's much more transcendent and his upside is higher. But the fact that they went with Michael Mayer and then now immediately take Brock Bowers, I kind of wonder if they know what they're doing and if they can use tight ends at all. So trust in Allah, tie up your camel.
I'll say this. It's a new coaching staff. It's going to be a different offense. So it's going to be a lot different than the dysfunction we saw in Vegas. At least, yes, fingers crossed for all Raiders fans.
Yes.
Fingers crossed when it's all said and done. We were talking earlier, Steve, about, well, the quarterback position with the Raiders. Is it Gardner Minshew? Is it Aiden O'Connell? What's that going to look like? What are you hearing and what do you expect in terms of just the starter for week 1 for the Raiders?
So, it's funny. I was on with a different show with you guys 2 weekends ago, and I said it was going to be Gardner Minshew, and everyone should bet Gardner Minshew. And now 2 weeks later, I can't say Gardner Minshew, but here's the thing. I don't think it's good of Aiden O'Connell winning the job. There's something really weird with the Raiders. They seem like they want to give Aiden O'Connell the chance. He hasn't really earned it in practice or in, the limited snaps in the preseason games. So at this point, I couldn't tell you what's going to happen in 2 weeks. We do sports radio, so we got to make predictions. I still think it's going to be Gardner Minshew, but it could be Aiden O'Connell for some strange reason. There seems to, again, be confusion within the Raiders organization about direction, which is kind of the Raiders' history and why they are where they are, kind of in the middle of the league, because they always have dysfunction on decision-making.
What do you see for Brock Bowers in terms of his role? And is there a chance that we see him disappear like Michael Mayer did last year?
I don't think there's any chance that he turns into Mayer. I don't think Mayer was ready for the National Football League. And, from a blocking standpoint, I don't think he was ready. He also wasn't healthy all year. So, I mean, if Bowers had bad health, then obviously that takes him out. Bowers is so much more dynamic than Mayer. Mayer's your traditional tight end. Like you mentioned, they're playing him everywhere. I think they're really titillated by the fact that Georgia used him a lot, or often, on runs. He's that next-generation tight end. Now, how that works out this year, it's hard to predict. I think he'll have a good year. Could you be looking at 50 catches, 650 yards, 5 touchdowns? I'll be conservative, yes. But then we go back to the original part of it is, can both quarterbacks, whoever plays, can they get them the ball? They got the ball in pretty decent numbers last year to Devontae Adams. So I think Bowers is going to have a good year, but there's always the question about who's going to be out there at quarterback. And then by the middle of the season, what's the direction of the franchise? Do they stink at the start? And then they're just throwing Aiden O'Connell out there and kind of playing for a better draft slot next year. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they're going to have a great year, but maybe Minshew gets the job. I think Minshew's got more upside, and he can make all those weapons work. It's going to be fascinating to watch what happens.